Hey everybody, how are you? Welcome to part 4 of Do Not Love the World right here in the Hope Givers section. I hope you're getting a lot out of this. We're just kind of talking through it. I'm actually looking around. If you see me looking down all the time, it's because I've got like all these books in front of me. This is the way I study. This is the way I talk. I just kind of look at everything. So forgive me for not looking you in the eyes. And I hope that you are enjoying this. We're talking about Do Not Love the World from 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. And we are camping out right now, right at verse 16. And so let me back up just a second here and kind of review a little bit. We've been talking about some of the issues that John brings up when it comes to loving the world. And what does it mean to love the world? What is worldliness? What does all this mean? All of these things. And now he's coming to the three things. And I tell you, I don't need, like I was saying at the end part a while ago, I don't need to do too much explaining about these three. But these are the three things that he talks about that constitutes a person who loves the world. He says that God is excluded from these three things. He says to check it out. Look at the world. Look at what the world appeals to. Look at what our world today elevates. I'm sitting here, you can look at magazines, or you can look on the internet, or look at whatever, at the grocery store. Look at what newspapers and things are, or television shows, reality shows. Look at what the world appeals to. Look at what it elevates to a higher level than God. Look at how it positions you in the process. I heard recently that the average American sees 3,000 commercial images every day, and those 3,000 images say you're missing something in your life. Put this in your hair, do this, take this pill, whatever, this will help you. You need to drive this car, whatever. Look at how everything positions itself. He says, for all that is in the world, pay close attention here, because verse 16, for all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and the pride and possessions of life. Now bear with me on this, because that Greek word for desire is epithemia. It means strong cravings and longings. The history of these cravings and longings find itself all the way back in Genesis chapter 3. The passionate desires, the craving and the longing to pervert the agapao, the love of God, and to redefine it so that I feel happy and that I feel significant in my life. You remember that Satan in Matthew chapter 4, when he came to Jesus to tempt him in the wilderness, after Jesus had fasted 40 days, had the nerve to attack the Son of God basically in these very three areas, thinking that the Son of God would pervert the agapao of God. And I would encourage you to do a study of when Satan, the serpent, came in the Garden of Eden. He actually tempted Eve with these three areas too, which is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And what he says here is that all that is in the world is driven by, number one, the flesh. In other words, what I feel, I do. I mean, boy, I could go down the pipe on this one quite a distance, but I won't. But the whole philosophical relativism, and I don't mean to shoot over anybody's head here, but we are impacted with that every single day in our society. There's no such thing as truth. Your truth, my truth, it's the same thing. You hear people say, don't tell me that things are right and things are wrong. If you feel like doing it, just do it as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. All of those kind of things. So we elevate the flesh, epithemia, the strong cravings of the flesh. And he says the eyes, basically what I see, I want. That's great. I can have it. If I can envision it, I can do it. If I desire it, go get it. Eve, look at that. Isn't that a pleasing piece of fruit? Don't you want that, Eve? That's what the enemy advertises, tells all of us. Don't you want to look like that? Don't you want to look like that teenage girl? Don't you want to look? Don't you want to be get the eyes of the guys or whatever? I mean, all these things start so young and it goes right up through middle age and into elderly age. I mean, we have so many people who email us and come up to me during the crusades and the events and email us on H2O who are into cutting. And by the way, statistics say that if there are more, I believe, than 100 people in a room, many of those people, I forgot what the stat is, but many of them have gone down that road. Others struggling with bulimia in that room out of 100 people, anorexia. You see things. And that's what we do. We see things. And so people begin to say stuff like, I need that to look like this. I have to have that. If I don't get that, I'm not going to be fulfilled. Epithemia, desire. You see it, you have to have it. Your life will not be what it should be without it. And commercially, we see that every day in 3,000 plus images that say, you got to have this. Well, then he says this. He says, thirdly, the pride and possessions of life. Now, by the way, my interpretation of the text is that there is a progression here. Notice what I feel, I've got to do. What I see further, I'm going to go ahead and take that. And once I get it, then I'm going to worship what I've accomplished or what I've acquired. I really believe that is the progression that he's speaking of in this text. He uses an interesting Greek word here. The word translated for pride of life. Pride is actually a word that was used for someone who is an empty braggart, whose life really doesn't have any substance, who is superficial. All that defines that person is the stuff they've accumulated. But there's nothing there. They're empty. That's powerful. Let me give you an illustration. I've done some speaking in my life for some professional sports teams over the years. A couple of times I was able to speak to some really professional, high-end athletes in the years that I've been in ministry. And I remember one time I got to speak at a really high-end banquet with some sports figures and their wives. One of the more mature Christian couples said to me, Brady, would you meet with this particular young couple? They're having some serious marital issues. And I met with them. But as I talked to them, I couldn't help but notice the woman. I've seen some big rocks before, but I almost had to get sunglasses. This rock this woman was wearing was humongous on her finger. And they were just beating around the bush with what the problem was in their lives, and all this stuff. I mean, they were rich beyond, anything. And I just finally looked at them because I felt like they were wasting my time and I was wasting theirs. And I just said, look, you don't know me. What's the issue here? All of a sudden, this woman starts crying. And she starts bawling. And she said, I won't use his name, I'll just call him George because you'll know who he is. She said, George bought me this engagement ring. And we got married at the end of the last sporting season. And it was so unique and so special that I didn't think anybody else would have one like it. And then I met another players and his wife, and she had the same ring. And she starts fanning herself like women do. This was not one of my more sensitive counseling moments. I just looked at her like, you're a friggin' idiot. Have you ever had one of the, have you ever had words just kind of bubble up in you and they just come right out of you and you didn't really mean anything? I should not have said this, okay? I shouldn't have said it. But I said, lady, you have got to be kidding me. And then I kind of reeled in and I said, honey, let me tell you something. And I was actually fixing to walk off, but I said this. I got as close to her as I could, and I said, let me tell you something. You are worth more than what just came out of your mouth. You certainly have more substance than that. And she just looked at me. And I just wonder. And I walked off. I just wonder, though, when God sees us down here, sees us go down that trail, we pour our passions, we pour our desires out for the bigger house and for more money and for more labels than we wear and stuff that we have and our body image and all of that stuff. I just wonder. And we kill our health trying to make money, and then we spend all of our money trying to get our health back. I just wonder, I absolutely wonder if God just doesn't say, is that all there is to you? Is that all there is to you? I mean, please forgive my directness, but ladies and gentlemen, there comes a point in our lives where you must decide sometime who and what defines you. You must make that decision, not just intellectually, but viscerally, here in your heart, here in your gut. What is it that defines who you are, and what you will pursue? And then you will assign yourself to the responsibility of personal damages that it will incur or the personal blessings it will incur. Do not love the world. In the next part, we're going to apply this stuff. Hang with me right here in Hope Givers.